The Personality Assessment of Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a book series that came to public prominence in the early 2000s. It chronicles the adventures of a boy and his friends and acquaintances as they battle evil in a mystical world. Harry Potter was a young boy from England that was orphaned by the tragic murder of his parents when he was an infant. He was raised by his abusive aunt and uncle and resided in their home with his cousin of the same age for most of his childhood. When he turned 11, he received a letter explaining to him that he was a wizard and that he was meant to pack his bags and go to a special school for magic called Hogwarts, therefore being able to leave his abusive household for the school year. Harry started school with quite a legacy. He was not hard pressed to find friends and quickly found Ron and Hermione. Harry was very personable in nature and was a favorite by peers and professors alike. Some argue this was in part due to his popular legacy, but anyone who read the book series could attest that he was just a personable, kind, and charismatic person. Harry is continuously presented as a selfless person that would do anything for the people he loves, including attempting to sacrifice his life multiple times for the greater good. His role in the Wizarding World. Harry's main antagonist amongst many is the notorious Lord Voldemort. Voldemort is the leader of a racist league of pureblood followers and killed Harry Potter's parents over the span of the series and is now trying to kill him. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry has 4 houses they sort their first years into. Gryffindor values courage, bravery, nerve, and chivalry. Hufflepuff values hard work, patience, justice, and loyalty. Ravenclaw values intelligence, learning, wisdom, and wit. And Slytherin values ambition, cunningness, leadership, and resourcefulness. These are all examples of how distinctive personality was very important to the characterization of everyone in the series. Harry and his 2 best friends were all proud Gryffindors. This is often why the reader finds them in spots of turmoil or trouble, because bravery doesn't always mean brains. Harry did live up to the Gryffindor name by having the courage to put others first no matter the consequences he personally would suffer from. He saves the world on many occasions, including the final battle of Hogwarts. I think an interesting little quote by Dumbledore, the headmaster at Hogwarts, is "It matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be." I think this gives slight reference to the personality aspects of nature versus nurture. Humanistic theory, honoring the whole individual. This was brought to prominence by Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. It emphasizes personal growth and striving for meaningful and satisfying life, while trying to evade pessimistic thinking by not focusing on the negatives and our mistakes, but instead discovering personal strengths. In 1943, Maslow created Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is basically a theory of motivation for human behavior. The hierarchy seen here is a sort of triangle with 5 different rungs. On the bottom rung, the least complex is the physiological, which includes breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, excretion, and then on the next rung is safety, which is security of body, of employment, of resources, of morality, etc. The next rung is love/belonging, which is also seen as social, and it's about friendship, family, and sexual intimacy. The next rung is esteem, which is self esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, and respect by others. At the top is something that we should all hope to achieve one day is self actualization. Although this is just a theory, morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, lack of prejudice, and acceptance of facts is something that we all should strive for. The hierarchy of needs in relation to Harry Potter. Maslow states that this theory is pretty solidified in terms of rank, but some exceptions may be made in certain cases. I would argue that since Harry didn't have a normal childhood or life in general, his hierarchy would be better described as, in order from least complex to most, physiological, esteem, safety, love and belonging, and then self-actualization. Obviously, physiological needs hold precedence in why they are important, but they are kind of the least complex. I cannot say with any certainty that Harry Potter has reached self-actualization due to the series not encapsulating it, but along the lines of this theory, he seems to be a good candidate for reaching a level of life satisfaction due to his very fulfilling tales of saving the world. In terms of safety, Harry Potter most certainly had a deficiency of it from the moment he was born until the end of the Battle of Hogwarts. He had a distinct lack of control over his life, whether it was due to the impending continuous doom that came from constantly fighting his enemies, or even simply his entire childhood in which his parents were killed. He was forced to live with his abusive next of kin. He lived in a coat closet under the stairs and was repeatedly threatened with being kicked out onto the streets if he didn't follow the rules. This obviously establishes a very strong desire to settle down and have a normal, secure life by the time the war is over. On the social side, Harry's immense focus on his friendships is duly noted throughout the series. This is largely complex rung in the hierarchy because of the lack of love, socialization, and acceptance he experienced from ages 0 to 11. He received no love from his adoptive family, and so he made his own family, and they were held very near to his heart. Emotional relationships drive human behavior at this stage, and so it's understandable that Potter takes his relationships with those around him very seriously. This could be linked with a safety level because his feelings of never wanting to be alone again and power and numbers are a common theme. Although Maslow's hierarchy has a lot of great points, there are some problems with it. This theory has been proven to be an influential staple in psychological circles, but there have been criticisms. The one I find most important to touch on is that needs do not always follow a certain level of necessity over one another. We are constantly changing and evolving, and some things that are complex for us at age 20 may still be at age 60, or we may not deem them complex at all. Self actualization aspect might be the most sound aspect of this theory if it weren't for the fact that we have no way of knowing if someone is self actualized. It is impossible to test if someone is self actualized, and what may be actualization for some people may not be for others. It is a qualitative subject, not quantitative, which obviously makes it difficult to fully theorize and provide data for. Big Five personality types. The Big Five remains pretty stable throughout our entire lifetimes and are influenced by both genes and environment. It is very highly accepted by psychological communities and is seen as a sliding scale spectrum. Those high in extroversion are often sociable and fun loving and are not really reserved. Those with high levels of agreeableness are trusting and helpful and have low levels of suspiciousness and uncooperativity. Those with high levels of conscientiousness are disciplined and careful and are not really impulsive and disorganized. Those with high levels of neuroticism experience anxiety and pessimism and do not have levels of calm or confidence. Those who are high in openness are imaginative and spontaneous and are not technically routine or practical. Harry's most prominent traits are agreeableness and extroversion. On the agreeableness side, we see that he is trusting, well liked, altruistic, and helpful. He is always seen helping other people in the very obvious ways, saving the world, but he also makes a habit of providing emotional refuge for random friends and acquaintances and supplying advice when it's needed. People trust him, and he holds a very high level of modesty, often expressing disdain for the legacy he was born into and wishing to be normal. On the extroversion side, he is very sociable, excitement seeking, enjoys being the center of attention from time to time, and is outgoing. A lot of the traits that we think of in regards to extroversion apply to the characterization of a Gryffindor. Although Potter is modest, he is often seen in positions of authority or leadership that would be considered as being the center of attention. Some examples of this are agreeableness. He helps his friends with trivial manners and mishaps, even though he has a lot going on. He cares very deeply about those around him and their well being and often checks in on people. He is often a haven for secrets and a person of comfort for many. And on the extroversion side, he is the captain of the Quidditch team, the leader of Dumbledore's army. He is a leader and frontman of the Great War, and he is not afraid to voice his opinion. He's assertive and unintentionally charming, and people like to follow him because he is very nice. And he thrives in casual social situations, which we see a lot in this series.